Coast Guard Vessel 4403. This is China Coast Guard Vessel 5201.
Coast Guard vessel, BRP Malapascua, MRRV 4403, conducting lawful routine maritime patrol within the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone.
Philippine Coast Guard Vessel 4403. Since you have disregarded our warning, we will take further necessary measures on you in accordance with the law, and any consequences entailed will be borne by you. Over.
The near miss-off on the Spratly Islands last week was the latest in a steady string of incidents between China and the Philippines in the contested waterway. A Chinese Coast Guard ship cut off a Philippine patrol vessel carrying journalists in the disputed South China Sea, causing a near collision, as witnessed by the Associated Free Press team on board with another boat. AFP was one of several media outlets invited to join two Philippine Coast Guard boats on a 1,670-kilometer patrol of the South China Sea, visiting a dozen islands and reefs. The BRP Malapascua and BRP Malabrigo were shadowed by Chinese Navy and Coast Guard ships, and ordered to leave the waters several times during the 6-day journey. The Malapascua and Malabrigo had broadcast their intention to sail into the shoal to conduct a site survey and asked the Chinese vessels to stay clear from its passage. But the Chinese Coast Guard responded over the radio that the Philippine boats were illegally sailing in China's territorial waters, and told them to leave.
Philippine Coast Guard Vessel 4403. This is China Coast Guard Vessel 5201. In the face of the friendly relationship between China and the Philippines, we hope you can cooperate with our deeds. Do not take inappropriate behaviors which will interfere with maritime security.
This is Philippine Coast Guard BRP Malabrigo MRRV 4402. Conducting site survey for buoy laying operation within the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone, in accordance with international and Philippine national laws. We are proceeding according to our plan route. Request to stay clear from our passage in accordance with the collision regulation. Over.
The incident happened after the Philippine Coast Guard boats approached Second Thomas Shoal, where Philippine Marines are stationed in a rundown Navy ship grounded to assert Manila's territorial claim in the waters. As the 144-foot Malapascua neared the shoal, while a Chinese Coast Guard vessel more than twice its size sailed into its path. On another occasion, Chinese and Vietnamese vessels confronted each other in recent days on multiple occasions. As a Chinese research ship moved within Hanoi's Exclusive Economic Zone or EEZ, which experts said was likely a survey. Vietnamese agency said that such survey would usually be considered hostile if conducted without notification. The Philippine Coast Guard has placed navigational buoys within its Exclusive Economic Zone or EEZ to assert sovereignty over the disputed Spratly Islands in the South China Sea. This move highlights the Philippines' unwavering effort to resolve and protect its maritime borders and resources and contribute to the safety of maritime trade. As a maritime nation, it is imperative that the Philippines prioritizes the maintenance of navigational safety to ensure the protection of its waters and the people who navigate the area. These cardinal buoys will indicate the direction of safe waters to prevent passing ships from running aground in these shallow areas. The Philippine Coast Guard set up 5 buoys carrying the national flag from May 10 to 12 in 5 areas within the 200-mile or 322-kilometer economic exclusive zone, including the Whitsun Reef, where hundreds of Chinese maritime vessels moored in 2021. The step comes amid China's increasingly aggressive actions in the South China Sea, as Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. pursues warmer ties with treaty ally, the United States. However, China responded by reportedly deploying their own buoys in Balagtas Reef, Julian Felipe Reef, and Gavin Reef. China deployed 3 navigation beacons around the contested Spratly Islands of the South China Sea, following similar marker placements by the Philippines earlier this month, as both sides try to fortify their claims to the area. Meanwhile, Vietnam criticized recent conduct by a Chinese research ship in the Philippine Coast Guard in the South China Sea, accusing its neighbors of separate actions that were violating its sovereign rights. Asked for comment, Vietnamese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Pham Tu Hang told a press conference that those vessels were violating the sovereign rights and jurisdictions of Vietnam, which was taking appropriate measures to defend its rights. China has said that scientific research is a normal activity in areas under Chinese jurisdiction. China claims almost the entire South China Sea as its territory, based on what it says are old maps, including waters that lie within the EEZ of Vietnam and the Philippines, including those with 3 other Southeast Asian countries. The Philippines was also rebuked for placing navigational buoys in 5 areas of its EEZ to assert sovereignty over the hotly disputed Spratly Islands, to parts of which Vietnam also lays claim. Philippine Foreign Ministry spokesperson Teresita Daza said, Manila's Coast Guard's installation of buoys was consistent with the country's rights as a coastal state under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. They are meant to improve safety of navigation in its waters and should be of no cause for concern. As part of the Philippines Defense Network package, 2 newly commissioned gunboats of the Philippine Navy will be deployed to the West Philippine Sea, as the government shifts its focus more toward an external defense of its borders, particularly in the West Philippine Sea. The president witnessed the commissioning of the 2 Israeli-made fast-attack interdiction craft during ceremonies in Manila, marking the Navy's 125th anniversary. The gunboats, purchased from Israel for 10 billion pesos, are mainly for territorial and coastal patrol operations, according to the Philippine Navy. Capable of delivering precision strikes against bigger hostile vessels and high-value targets on land and sea, each of 32-meter-long FAICs is equipped with quick interceptability, remote-stabilized weapons, and short-range missiles. Focusing on enhancing maritime capabilities, the event served as a platform to showcase the country's commitment to bolstering its naval forces. As the country faces evolving security challenges, the government recognizes the need to modernize and strengthen its naval capabilities. The deepening territorial disputes in the South China Sea involve conflicting island and maritime claims by several sovereign states in the region. The South China Sea is a marginal sea of the western Pacific Ocean. It is bounded in the north by the shores of South China and in the west by the Indo-Chinese Peninsula, while in the east, the islands of Taiwan and the northwestern Philippines islands of Luzon, Mindoro, and Palawan, and in the south by Borneo, eastern Sumatra, and the Bangka Belitung Islands, encompassing an area of around 3,500,000 square kilometers. Multiple Asian governments assert sovereignty over rocks, reefs, and other geographic features in the heavily trafficked South China Sea. However, the People's Republic of China arguably makes the most assertive claims. China's sweeping claims of sovereignty over the sea have antagonized competing claimant nations of Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Taiwan, and Vietnam. As early as the 1970s, countries began to claim islands and various zones in the South China Sea, such as the Spratly Islands, which possess rich natural resources and fishing areas. About a third of the world's maritime, relating to ocean trade goes through the South China Sea. It is estimated that more than $5 trillion in global trade flows through the region each year, while explorations have discovered abundant natural gas and hydrocarbon reserves. Half of all oil and gas tankers from the Middle East sail into it, on their way to China, Japan, the US, and elsewhere. China and 5 smaller nations all lay claim to overlapping territories among the sea's vast stretch of islands, rocks, and archipelagos, leading to tensions that threaten peace and prosperity. The location of the sea also makes it militarily strategic and valuable for national security. The Spratly Islands have been at the center of the debate in the South China Sea. In July 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague issued its ruling on a claim brought against China by the Philippines under UNCLOS, ruling in favor of the Philippines on almost every count. While China is a signatory to the treaty, which established the tribunal, it refuses to accept the court's authority. In recent years, satellite imagery has shown China's increased efforts to reclaim land in the South China Sea by physically increasing the island's size and creating new ones altogether. In addition to piling sand onto existing reefs, China has constructed ports, military installations, and airstrips, particularly in the Paracel and Spratly Islands, where it has 20 and 7 outposts, respectively. China has militarized Woody Island by deploying fighter jets, cruise missiles, and a radar system. The South China Sea is an area of growing concern over conflicting territorial claims, piracy, poaching, resource depletion, pollution, drug trafficking, illegal migration, and terrorism threats. It is one of the world's busiest international sea lanes with many of the world's busiest shipping ports. Over half of the world's oil tanker traffic and over half of the world's merchant fleet, by tonnage, sail through its waters every year. It is a strategic maritime link between the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean, and therefore of paramount importance to major naval powers.